Ha! Did you know you're fake, by the way?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, dude, people are constantly asking, are you single? And I'm always like, no, I'm poly, but don't flirt with me because I don't know you. But then they'll be like, cap and shit. And I'm just like, they've been on stream before. No need to cap when it's just patently obvious.
That cage is cursed.
Ow!
Because the female rabbit died in it.
I don't know what it is about that cage. I don't think it's that cage is cursed. I think that chicken was probably already on its last legs when you bought it. I don't think those people were taking very good care of their chickens. I mean, they obviously weren't, because if you look at that, when we got that bird, it was missing a big chunk of the feathering near to its tail.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign that it's been held in pretty strict confinement, that it's been cloistered around a lot of other chickens and shit. And, well, Jesus, just piss right at us, why don't you? Fuck. Anyway, I think that chicken was just having a pretty hard time. You know what? Look at it this way, baby. It was a cute chicken. And I know you're starting to get attached to her. But you made the last few days of her life as peaceful and happy as they could, be. My hair looks awesome. Thanks, Hope. Yeah, it's been a while since you've been in here. This is ground control to Major Tom. We really made a great. Go hit it again. I want to light my cigarette. I did it again. I hit the home button and you were looking right at me. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Glitch Dash. Glitch Dash, a real G. You know, Glitch Dash has bought more of my vapes and bought us more J's than anybody else. Just in terms of what I've spent a person's contributions for. Because like a lot of the people who just do the regular super chats, a lot of you guys pay my bills functionally. Like you guys are the ones who are helping me pay my $200 to $250 a month for just general household expenses. We all try to pool a basic amount of money and use that pool to pay for the household expenses. And obviously my personal bills and shit are all coming out of that shit too, right? Because that's one time a month. I know when it's going to happen. I know roughly how much it's going to be. But as far as like individual contributions to Cash App and shit like that, dude, Glitch Dash, you have bought us a profound number of J's. We got 59 viewers.
Already?
Yeah. Fucking 3 minutes in, yeah. You want to say hi to the people?
No.
I'll turn the camera so you can say hi.
Hi. What?
Nothing. It's funny sometimes watching somebody try to get up off the floor or the ground.
What are you fuckers?
Are they saying anything worthwhile?
I don't want to follow him. I don't want to follow Jesus.
Jeebus?
Jeebus.
You don't want to follow Jeebus? Why not? Jeebus is the way and the truth, the light.
What?
Personally, the only God I believe in is Jesus, not Jesus. The great purveyor of the Parmesan.
What? Give me that.
Do you have to work tomorrow or have the day off? I have to work basically every day. But, what I do for work is way fucking less taxing and more creative than what a lot of people get to do. And there's this old boomer saying, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? I do something I love. I do these YouTube streams. I do at least one a day. I sometimes will do 2 a day if I've got, like, on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Silas, the beautiful person you guys were just looking at, they are home on the weekends, and that gives me the opportunity to do streams during the daytime sometimes. But otherwise, you guys can catch me at 10 p.m. CST, 7 days a week usually. We sit here, we argue, we talk about, current events, news, religion, politics, whatever you guys want to talk about. It is user driven. Damn it, my nose is leaking. You look around and see if you can find that ashtray used to be over here.
I don't know where it'd be.
Yeah, just look around on the ground. I mean, just, it can't be far. I just figured if you were standing up anyway, you don't have to. Obviously.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, well. Let me see. I'm going to turn this. There we go. Now I can. Now it's a better shot. Well, it's actually not that good a shot yet. Let me. You know what the problem is that I'm facing? The problem that I'm facing is that if I actually move over enough to not be in the fucking sun, I'm going to still be in the sun in a few minutes. Oh, no. No, I was just watching, make sure she stopped. Okay, anyway. There we go. Now we're in a good shot, and we are distraction free. For some reason, my phone is still trying to, or my gimbal rather, not my phone, but my gimbal is trying to fucking adjust itself in some weird way. I don't really understand that, but whatever. Don't get why it's doing that, but that's okay. We will figure this out, y'all. We will figure this out one way or the other. Come hell or high water. It's the Technical Support Show with Phoebe Ophelia. Anyway, what's up, guys? Do you watch Family Guy? It seems today that all we see is violence in movies and sex on TV. But where are those good old-fashioned values on which we used to rely? Lucky there's a Family Guy. Lucky there's a man who positively can do all the things that make us laugh and cry. He's our Family Guy. Perfect timing on Bella's part. My teeth are not rotted. I'm not missing any teeth. See? I ain't missing any teeth. They're just yellowed. I don't even have any cavities. They literally are just stained. Okay? And in my opinion, the main reason they're stained is because I can't go to a dentist. I haven't had dental insurance consistently over the last 10 years. So I can't get regular cleanings like a lot of other people would. But I do brush my teeth. I do floss. I take care of my teeth. I just don't, I don't avoid certain things that just naturally stain your teeth, I've got, a little bit of a coffee obsession. Obviously, I smoke cigarettes. I like, calorically dense, oily foods. All of these things are bad for your teeth, If you want the best diet for your teeth, you have to be eating what our ancestors ate. And sorry, I'm just not willing to live on a diet of ibex meat and einkorn. I like beef. I like chicken. I like corn. I like wheat, Hey, man, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. I don't know if you realize this, but on the back of every pack of cigarettes you buy in America, there's a big, long warning label, right? That says something to the effect of, the Attorney General recommends that women don't do this because it may cause breast cancer. There's warnings like, Smoking may increase your risk of lung disease. All of these smoking warnings are designed to discourage people from engaging in it. And despite every one of those smoking warnings, I want you to take a guess at whether or not smoking remains a very dominant thing, especially among millennials, Gen X, and boomers. Anybody want to pull up the statistics on that? You are not her, Mr. Him, and you ain't the chief of shit, but here you are calling yourself that. So, anyway, I'm going to go. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Just in case a train comes, you guys can see it. Alrighty. There we go. What's up, everybody? I'm back. Alrighty. Oh, so what are we going to talk about today, y'all? Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. There are 12 likes already, and I haven't even pimped it yet this stream. But we are at 86 viewers, which means if half of you guys hit that like button right now, we would have 43 likes on top of the 12 we already have. So if you haven't done that already, please do so now. Bucket? Yes, it was a bucket. The reason why Bella was bellowing like that was because she had finished the first round of their feeding, was ready for the second. She's a really voracious eater, so I try not to feed them all at once. The goats are less voracious, but I think that's, partly because there are more of them and they can play more easily with each other, so they get distracted by play. You don't want goats, dude. I mean, goats are cute, goats are cool, but they are a lot to keep up with. And just make sure you get like 3 or 4, because goats love to have other goats to play with and fuck around with. And they will test their fences a lot less if they've got that kind of social interaction. What was Charlie Kirk right about, Billy Punk Rock? Because Charlie Kirk had a lot to say. If you want to talk about Charlie Kirk, I'm more than happy to talk about that. Ow! Ow! What the fucking hell? Ow, dude, what the fuck? Ow. Oh. Ah. Shit. Ow. Something stung the fuck out of me just then. I don't even know what it was. Oh. God damn it, that hurt. Owie. Ah. Jesus. No, I don't think it was a horsefly, because fucking the thing I saw, dude, I saw like an abdomen. I think I must have, like, there must have been something on. I don't know what it was, but all I saw was like an abdomen and a thorax. So I don't know. I must have killed something. Maybe it was a horsefly though. It could have been. I mean, I think the horseflies have mostly went to sleep for this year. I've been seeing like the smaller flies following Bella around, so I wouldn't think it'd be a horsefly, midway through October, but who knows? It is Mississippi. It very well could be. Anyway, what's up, Harper? Bugs should leave Phoebe alone. They should, dude. I'm not tasty, okay? I'm not tasty at all. I'm a smoker and shit. What do they do? What are they trying to do? Get high? Charlie was right about lots of things, but his statistics were not always accurate. Oh, dude, Charlie Kirk loved to cherry pick some statistics. Charlie Kirk was a perfect exemplar of the old Mark Twainian axiom. There are lies, damned lies, and statistics. He was a perfect example of that. As far as what he was right about, I mean, I asked earlier, and I haven't seen somebody pointing out what he was right about. But then again, I did get bitten by some kind of horsefly or some shit, and I got distracted. So run me through it again. What exactly was Charlie Kirk right about? Let's argue. Let's talk. He seemed to act very much like a male. That's not the read I get off of a lot of people, but if that's the read you get off of me, that's perfectly fine. I am perfectly comfortable living as a woman and considering myself a woman, regardless of the opinions of other people. It's mostly important to me that I am being honest about who and what I am and who I feel like I am, and etc. Right? Like, it's my personal expression is important to me, not because of the validation of others, but because the validation that it brings me, myself, when I look in the mirror and when I think about myself in reference to other people. I look like a 90s creature. I am a 90s creature. You're satisfied with yourself? Cool, I don't care. You cared enough to leave that comment, didn't you? By the way, there's 197 people watching. If half of you guys hit that like button right now, we would have almost 200 fucking likes. No, not almost 200. We would almost have 100 likes. There we go. I know numbers. I can do math. Anyway, hit that like button. It really does help. I appreciate every single one. And the same goes for super chats. Those are enabled, and if you want to send one, it is the best way to get your voice to be added to the overall discourse. I do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS. Bathroom issue. Do you think trans women should use the women's bathroom? I personally don't think so. I don't think so either, but probably for a different reason than you do. I don't think it's very safe for trans women to use women's bathrooms right now. I don't think that trans women should use men's bathrooms either. I think trans women should not be using public bathrooms that are multi-person. With the culture being what it is right now, I would advocate for any trans woman I knew to stay out of like multi-person bathrooms, because I think weird conservative fuckwits that are like overly violent, and I'm not looping all conservatives into this. I mean, people who happen to have that political alignment, but also have this weird predilection for violence and this bloodlust and shit. I think they're just looking and waiting around, a lot of them, for an excuse to go murder a trans person. And there's no better excuse they need than seeing the wrong trans person walk out of a bathroom. So I think under the current political climate, it's pretty inadvisable for trans women to use women's bathrooms. I don't think it should be. I think that we should be allowed to use the bathroom that identifies with who we are. But I think the violent, right-wing, conservative fucking bent towards targeting minorities has made it kind of difficult for me to personally advocate for a trans woman to do that, right? I think that the assassinations of those Democratic lawmakers is a sign that things are getting more and more tense. I think the judge whose home was burned down, I think that's a sign of things getting more tense. Not to mention the Charlie Kirk shooting. Obviously, that's part of it too. But if you look at the broad swath of political violence that's happened in America, especially over the last 20 years, it has all been coming out of the right. It has almost all of it been coming out of the right. And that makes me pretty fucking picky about what types of direct activism that I advocate for, right? That's why I advocate for people to hit the streets in numbers with the protection of solidarity, because that is the best way to ensure your safety and push leftist ideas. And we need that right now. We need people out on the street defying Trump and his fascist tendencies, defying Trump and his fascist audience, his fascist fan base. We need people going against the grain of the conservative bent that is doing its utmost best to try and take over America. We need people out there. We need them to be like actively peaceful. We need them to be civilly disobedient in all of the ways that are normal, but to never play into the instigators and the agent provocateurs and things like that. We need this to be a coordinated movement of peace and resistance. As far as like little smaller individual acts of civil disobedience, little smaller individual things, I think that needs to be taken on a case-by-case basis. And when it comes to like this, like the bathroom issue, a matter of personal comfort, there's like really nothing for it. It sucks utterly that trans women can't feel safe going into a woman's restroom right now, but I really don't know that we should. I don't know that we should feel safe doing that under the current auspices, because people want to fucking murder people right now. People want, or they're just looking, begging for excuses. And so it's an actual real safety issue in my mind. Morally, I think it's perfectly, perfectly, perfectly just and like incredibly sane to let people use whatever bathroom aligns with the gender they express as. And in fact, I think in a more reasonable world, that would be the safer thing to do. Now, I would make the argument that assaults in bathrooms, just in general, are like nil. They almost never happen. Public bathrooms are not usually the place where you get groped. As a person who got groped, as a kid, like I can tell you it didn't happen in a public bathroom, okay? And as a person who's known multiple victims of SA, it's not something that just happens in a fucking public bathroom. That is not the place where sexual violence tends to occur. It's just not. It's not the place where any fucking violence tends to occur. You know why? Because nobody's trying to be in a public bathroom unless they got to take a shit or got to piss. And honestly, there are a lot of people who just save that till they get home. Who the fuck's trying to be in a fucking public bathroom, bro? What, like, do you think people are doing all kinds of juicy shit in there? Do you really think the preponderance of creeps is so fucking high that it exceeds the number of trans people? I don't. Like, dude, I have fucking met so few fucking people in my life that are actual fucking creeps to that level. This idea that people are just being preyed upon by one another in that way, I think is pretty silly. The idea that people want to use that as an excuse to prey on other people, I think that one is just omnipresent in our society. You literally cannot be a leftist now without being threatened with violence. You cannot be a Democrat right now without being threatened with violence. And I'm not even a Democrat. I'm not, a supporter of the DNC. I'm just pointing out the fact that anybody left of Reagan right now is being treated like we're terrorists. Trump and his cronies have literally launched an all-out war against the American left by labeling Antifa a terrorist organization when it's not even an organization. It's a label. It means it's short for anti-fascist, and anti-fascist includes anybody left of Reagan. I'm literally the most left person. I don't know about that, but I'm definitely a hardcore leftist. Farther left than the DNC, that's for sure. Far enough left to see that the DNC and the RNC are both retarded. I'm going to have to turn, let me see here. Let me go all messages, and then let me do a little bit of, any duration sub mode, and then slow mode. We'll do 15. Okay, there we go. Now we should be able to read things in chat. By the way, consider sending a super chat if you want to make sure your question or comment gets read or answered. I do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS, and I appreciate them massively. It's a great way to financially support the channel if you like our mission, which is to bring disparate voices together from all walks of life and all different political circles and encourage them to have frank discussions with coarse language, being as true to themselves as they possibly can be. If you like that, consider sending a super chat. Based sub mode. Oh yeah, now the chat's gonna get juicy. Wood chipper, man, I bet your ass couldn't even fucking incapacitate me to get me into a wood chipper, much less heft my hefty ass up into one. So that's an idle threat if I've ever heard it. That is a fucking toothless threat if I've ever heard one. Why you never go live on a payday? I do. I probably do. You're probably just, like, you work a more traditional kind of job, so you're probably like in bed at a reasonable hour, I work this shit, so I'm, my dumb ass is fucking going live at 11 p.m. most days. I don't disrespect anyone, but I don't necessarily agree with your point of views. That's fine, Lone. I appreciate that. I genuinely do. I love people to disagree with me. I'm not a big fan of people being douchebags, but I'm also not going to ban somebody just for that either. I'm the kind of person, I'll match energies. You get physical, now that's where I'm going to cut off the line and say, okay, you need to fucking stop acting like a toddler. You need to calm down. But as long as it's just like, us being douches to one another, I really don't, like, I'm not going to cut off a friendship with somebody merely because we have like a heated exchange like that. Nor am I not going to allow somebody in chat to be in chat merely because that's the tact that they take. Really, I have no problem with disagreement. I have no problem with, heated disagreement and coarse language. None of that. What I do have a problem with, there's two things, right? Number one is just like, I always say readable, original, and interesting. And that basically covers be about it, okay? If you are going to say I'm wrong on something, don't just say I'm wrong. Tell me why, explain why, illustrate why. That is a way more useful contribution to the chat than just telling me I'm wrong. If I call you out for a factual claim, back your source. I don't care how bad the backing is, at least back it. At least tell me where you got that fucking piece of information from. Because I'll tell you where I get my information from. I have no problem telling you my sourcing. That's the only thing I demand out of chat, and I think that that's an entirely reasonable set of expectations. Well, I turned on sub only because the chat was going by so fucking quick that I couldn't read anything, bro. I had to turn on subs only. What was I gonna do? Like, just not read chat? It's literally like the point of the stream is to read chat. Can you rationalize your usage of the R word, please? Sure, Tommy. I think that language policing was an attempt at a policy to address some of the concerns of marginalized people across the United States. And while I understand why these concerns need to be addressed, and in fact, I was one of the many voices kind of like parroting the same idea and developing it further, I don't actually think it was that successful a policy. Number one, it didn't stop anybody who wanted to hurt mentally disabled people or just people in their life in general. It didn't stop any of those people from using words like retard or faggot or whatever, right? It didn't stop them from using these words, number one. And number two, I think it actually led to a bit of resentment against the American left, because there became this perception that what is going on in the world in terms of economy, in terms of war, and real life lived fucking everyday problems is not as important as the language you're using to talk to your friends or the language you're using on your social media. I think the undue amount of importance placed on those things actually harmed the leftist movement. And I care a lot about the interests of the working class. So I care a lot about the advancement of leftism. I really genuinely want to see a world where all of human need is basically taken care of and the market deals with human want, right? I want to see that world, but the only way we're going to see that world is if we figure out how to talk to conservatives again. If we figure out how to have conversations with them. And one of the ways I figured out to have conversations with them is by allowing myself to occasionally use words like retard, and allowing myself to be a little edgy in that way, and allowing myself to demonstrate that I'm not like every other lefty you've met. I don't give a shit what language you use. I give a shit about the substance of your argument, and that is what you will be banned for. Not because you used a bad word, but because you said a stupid thing, if anything, and you didn't back it up. I think that's a pretty fair exchange, and I think that that's a pretty fair justification for using words like that. Now, that being said, I still don't think that you should call a mentally disabled person a retard. I think that I think it's like George Carlin said, right? It's context. Context is king when it comes to words like this. Are you using the word retard against an actually mentally disabled person who's got like profound learning disabilities? Yeah, you're kind of a douchebag. Yeah, that's a pretty fucking shithead thing to do. I don't think you should go to jail for it, but it's a pretty douchebag thing to do. And I think people should probably yell at you if you do that, right? Okay, cool. But if you're just using it to somebody who's just being retarded in the colloquial sense, they're just being a dumbass, I think that's perfectly just. I think that's perfectly fine. I think that there is no reason why we should exclude ourselves from being able to do that, because to pretend otherwise, I feel like just violates basic rules of the English language, right? Context is king when it comes to these things. I love you, Queen. Thanks, Lewis. You're hitting the nail on the fucking head. Well, thank you, Weed Killer Cody. I appreciate the $1.99. Let me heart that comment. And anybody else who wants to support the channel or thank me or whatever, if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending a super chat. And I appreciate you. What was your name? Let me see. Let me remember it. Weed Killer Cody. Okay. That's a memorable name. Definitely not right wing at all. I'm not. Just because me and the right agree on a couple of things here and there doesn't mean I'm right wing. You think I'm right wing now? Wait till you hear my gun stance. No, I meant me. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My bad. Right on. Can you give your thoughts on locker rooms? Like, I'd have a serious issue with you in a locker room while my wife is changing. I don't think I'm wrong for feeling that way, but what would be your thought? Honestly, I don't know that I'm necessarily the best person to ask for this because I'm not an athlete. You can probably tell, right? And for me to have a strong opinion on what athletes should be expected to do when it comes to their locker rooms, I think would be a little silly. What I would suggest is, in addition to a men's locker room and a women's locker room, would be like a couple of unisex locker rooms, right? A couple of unisex changing rooms with some lockers in there, right? That are one person at a time. So it doesn't matter who goes in there and everything. It's got the basic amenities of a locker room. It's placed between the two, right? I mean, I know that for a lot of fucking schools and everything, you'd have to do a big remodeling project, but they're fucking, they love tax earmarks for shit like that. They get to fucking build out their school more and make it look cooler and upgrade the facilities. They love that shit. They'll do it. So that's what I would suggest is like, my solution for team sports has always been co-ed leagues, but when it comes to locker rooms, I would suggest like unisex locker rooms, like a couple or three. Um, and that would also benefit people who just don't feel comfortable changing near other people, but maybe just turning the whole thing into a series of single-use one-person locker rooms would be better. But I don't think so. I think a lot of people probably would still be comfortable with using locker rooms, but I think that providing two or three that are unisex, that are one person at a time, would provide not only an opportunity for trans athletes to get changed without judgment or without other people feeling uncomfortable for whatever weird reason. Even if I don't think that they would necessarily be 100% justified in feeling uncomfortable, I can understand why they would be, given the cultural narrative spun about trans people, right? And not only that, but there are like given the like cultural narratives regarding gender and sex too, right? So all of that considered, I can understand why someone might feel uncomfortable about that, even if rationally I recognize that it's not exactly the most rational thing to be worried about, right? But that being said, what harm is it to prevent trans people from being judged for their bodies and to prevent cisgender people from feeling uncomfortable with a person of the opposite sex in their locker room? I'm the trans Rush Limbaugh, dude. Somebody called me the trans Rush Limbaugh earlier. Oh shit. No, that would be Blair White. What's up, Lady Ray? Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. I'm still sorting my thoughts on the topic. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an emerging topic, right? Trans people are just now starting to get a little bit of recognition by the broader culture and society. We're just now starting to be found outside of old, obscure 70s songs and shit like that, you know? And that means that there's a lot of conversation to be had about these topics. That's one of the reasons why I host these, is because I invite people to come in and have these difficult conversations about hard topics with coarse language and all the things I said before, because I think that that's how we're going to figure out how we proceed forward. Trump is doing a lot of horrible shit right now, don't get me wrong, but what will be left in the wake of that are ashes we will have to be rebuild from. If not ashes, then, a lot of reduced capacity in a lot of ways, right? And I think that that's something to be considered, right? Where do we go from here? Where do we go? Because right now, the fucking bent of the American left is Trump, 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 Trump. And I think the bent of the American needs to be Trump, what do we do now? Trump, what do we do now? Trump, what do we do now? I think it needs to be, instead of that fast fucking heartbeat, Trump, 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 Trump. I think it needs to be Trump, what do we do now? Trump, what do we do now? Okay. The reason for that is because we are not going to make any headway with the American people if we cannot come to the right wing, the centrists, and everybody else with a cogent plan. Not just it's actually something that's Saul Alinsky brings up in Rules for Radicals. The price of I forget how he puts it, but it's basically like the price of burning everything down is having a good plan for how to rebuild. Something like that. I don't remember exactly how it's phrased, but he brings it up in that book, and it's a really fucking good point, because one of the things that people get, one of the things that makes people resistant when you talk to them about revolutionary change, when you talk about them really fucking changing their country, and you talk about some kind of movement like that, one of the things that makes people resistant is, okay, you want to get us off this track. This is not the right path. This is bad. This is bad. But what do you want to do instead? What's your plan? How would you solve things? That's what we need more than anything. So we need to keep talking about policy. We need to keep pushing universal health care. We need to keep pushing things. Instead of just pushing back against Trump, we need to actively fucking oppose him with real fucking policies. Real fucking policies. This fucking government shutdown and shit, there should be a driving fucking drumbeat from the fucking Democratic Party. We need universal health care, not just the fucking ACA subsidies kept. We need universal health care. And we're willing to keep things shut down for as long as that takes, Mr. President. I think that they should be pushing some real fucking hard shit. The American people need to be told that the fucking American left has some kind of idea as to how to proceed forward. Of course, the Dems aren't going to do that because they're only interested in prolonging their own liberal policies, but I really wish that they would, because it would be an opportunity for people to see the American left in a better light. Because for good or for ill, the American people associate the American left with the Democratic Party. Patrick Artunian, thank you for the $4.99. I think that's a goat. Yeah, I think that's a goat. Hell yeah! Thank you for the $4.99. I appreciate it. Listen, victims love being victims. When have I said shit about being a victim, bro? I just rant. There's no conversation. I'm reading the chat right now. Thoughts on transhumanism? Oh, please. Soon as we can. Please. I want wings. I want an artificial, I want artificial knees, artificial ankles, probably an artificial back, probably artificial hips, right? So the whole, skeletal structure down through there, artificial. And then wings. Okay? And then I'll be fine. Dude, why not? Why not? Why not, dude? Why not? You said you've been labeled and everyone wants violence towards the left. That's just objectively true. That's not self-victimization. That's me accurately reporting on what the president is doing. Which folks simply articulated themselves as you do. Well, thank you for the $2. I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I mean, if you like what you're hearing so far, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the bell so you get notifications about these. I go live almost every night, and it's usually interesting conversations just like these. Yeah, I rant a little bit. That's fine. I get it. That's not for everybody, but if you like it, and if you think I articulate myself well, stick around because there's always more to come. That being said, I think that the fact that a lot of people aren't able to articulate themselves very well is a reflection of the fact that 60% of American adults read at or below a fourth grade level. That means a lot of people just don't have the reading ability to read enough material to get themselves in the mindset where they can articulate themselves with clarity. And that's something that, yeah, it is definitely missing from American culture right now. But the only thing that's going to improve it is changing the way we look at education, changing the way that we look at how we take care of each other, really. It's something that I think we are at a crucial moment right now where there are enough Americans who still recognize that universal health care is a better way to do things, who recognize that abortion should be available on some level to people who need it, et cetera, et cetera. There is still a critical mass of Americans who believe in progressive values, and I think right now is an optimal time to get people on board with a mass fucking movement. Maybe these No King's Day protests will, maybe they'll pop it off. Maybe they'll pop it off, but yeah. It's actually very unfortunate. Plus, the only way to build any library, both literate-based but also visual, cultural, etc., is to increase your exposure to various ideas and concepts. Yeah, no, 100%. And Americans aren't really being taught anymore, from what I can tell, or at least they're not being taught. It doesn't seem like it's a very strong emphasis being placed on teaching kids how to teach themselves, basically, because you can learn on your own. You can continue reading after high school. There's no there's no law out there that says you can't, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people stop reading in high school. They get to the point in their classes where nobody's expecting them to read. They read their last fucking book in the first semester of senior year or whatever, and then that's it. They never read again. Nothing more complicated than a headline and a blurb, right? And that is something that's going to have to change. But the only way that changes is if we ignite this critical mass of people that still exists and still recognizes the veracity of progressive positions and is able to actually establish them and is able to get some real work done. Because I think if we do that right now, then we can save ourselves. But I think that if Trump completes this term, by the next term of whoever it is, I think that we'll be pretty much too far gone. Maybe the American people will surprise me, but I think that now is a critical moment. I think now is a critical moment, and frankly, I've thought that it was an apt time since 2020. I really genuinely kind of hoped that something was going to happen then, but it didn't. So failing that, let's get together, let's continue fucking talking and shit, and figure out some way to proceed forward that leads to a better quality of life for people that are like just trying to make it. Trump won the top popular vote. I know. When did I ever say he didn't? How do I feel about AI? I think that AI is a really incredible and interesting technology that I really wish was in the hands of the workers, the engineers and researchers who design these projects, and than the hands of shareholders, stockholders, corporate interests, etc. Real quick, let me read the super chat. $9.99 from Patrick Artunian. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Name your top 3 movies and TV shows in no particular order, please, and thank you. I wish I had a sig. Well, here you go. Grab it. Grab it real quick. There you go. No, I don't think I can actually hand you one, but my top 3 movies and TV shows in no particular order. Okay, Dexter definitely has got to be on that list. So I'm going to do top 3 TV shows and then top 3 movies. Okay, so Dexter, um, Bob Ross, and House MD. Those are my top 3 TV shows, no doubt. I feel super confident about that list. That's the best list I've ever put together. The movie list would be the Lord of the Rings trilogy, counted as one collective work. Man, favorites are hard to do with movies. Stand By Me, that's got to be one of my favorite movies ever. Rewatched that like a million times. And Fury, probably my favorite war movie ever. Between that and Saving Private Ryan. So yeah, and thank you for the $9.99, by the way. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it a lot. And to Harper, yeah. So I would say that AI is a really interesting concept. It's a really interesting technology, and I think it's already doing really fucking fascinating things, really wonderful things. But under the current model, it is definitely a driver of marketing, ads, and data mining, and it's excuse me, driving a lot of environmental devastation as well, a lot of harm to communities and shit. And so, um, I think it's something that probably does serve to be regulated. Of course, Donald Trump kind of like, uh, you know, he kind of like murked any chance of that happening in the big beautiful the big fucking bullshit bill or whatever. Um, anyway, so I think it is something that needs to be regulated and needs to be paid attention to, but I don't think it's really gonna be regulated or paid attention to as long as Republicans are in office, because it is a billionaire project, like I said, and as long as it remains a billionaire project, the Republicans are going to be its most fervent champions. Out of curiosity, are you on a farm right now? Yes. I mean, a homestead, I guess, not quite a farm. If you know anything about agriculture these days, you know that a farm implies thousands of acres and millions of dollars. Or a homestead. Thoughts on elections being rigged, about the very real possibility presidents, both on the left and the right, are selected, not elected? I don't think that it's quite that bad, but I do think that the type of candidates we're allowed to vote for are definitely selected, not elected, right? So when some of the examples of this are more obvious than others, but if you look at like the election of George W. Bush, right? George Bush would have been like he's a fucking perfect candidate to use for this example, right? Because George Bush had multiple members of his family and his like inner circle involved at various levels of the election process, and we know for a fact basically that the 2000 election was rigged. It's basically understood. Poor upset baby. Let's see. I have a text? No. He's probably just a little fussy then. But we know the 2000 election was effectively rigged. Jeb Bush was governor in the state that was in question. That's George Bush's brother. We know that it was like his cousin or something that was on the decision desk at Fox that night. The vote count woman was his campaign secretary or some shit like that. So literally, like, his inner circle was involved at every level of the campaign, like every level of the campaign process. His inner circle and shit was involved in the vote counting and the like public perception side of that election. And so we effectively know that one was rigged. But you can also look at the 2016 elections where Hillary Clinton was selected by the superdelegates of the DNC to be the nominee, despite the fact that Bernie Sanders actually won enough delegates if the people from those states had voted according to their districts. If everybody in the DNC that was a superdelegate had voted according to the districts, they probably would have had to do a recount because it was that close. But because Hillary Clinton was called by each of these superdelegates in defiance of their voters, Hillary Clinton was selected as the nominee. Not elected, because the superdelegates were people from within her campaign. They were DNC insiders, basically. And that's how the election was. That's how the election was stolen in 2016. And it wasn't stolen from Hillary Clinton. It was stolen from Bernie Sanders. Because if Bernie Sanders had won the DNC nomination in 2016, he would have won the fucking. He would have won the election later that year. There's no question in my mind about it. Hillary and Trump are such shit choices. Let me ask you this, Lone. Would you have voted for Bernie over Hillary or Trump? I would have. And I know a lot of Republicans who would have. I know a lot of fucking liberals and leftists who would have. Bush was a puppet, too dumb to understand, but knew he had to because he was an heir to the government. Oh, yeah. He was a fucking moron. But you know what was nice about Bush, though? Not to fucking, like, rewrite his history or anything like that, but at least Bush, like, he was a moron, yes, but at least he was a fucking, like, at least he was a somewhat witty moron, you know? Every so often he'd say, like, I know what it's like to have to put food on your family. Just seeing if you're paying attention, you know? I wouldn't have voted for anyone, but I like how Bernie carried himself more. Oh, come on now. I bet you would have voted Bernie. Come on. Bernie would have been great. Even if you fucking, like, dude, even if you don't like Hillary, Bernie wasn't Hillary. Bernie was like, he wasn't talking about anything for free, which is the fucking biggest thing people would argue. Like, whenever people would try and fucking talk shit on Bernie Sanders, they'll always say, he just wants to give everybody everything for free. But that's not the fucking case at all. What Bernie Sanders wanted to do was fucking fix our tax system so that billionaires are less able to move their fucking profits around and guarantee themselves massive sums of money that they never have to pay taxes on and shit like that. We fix that tax system. We reduce the appropriations we give to the military and shit like that. And we start actively using that money in better ways. We start reapportioning it to things like healthcare, reapportioning it to things like student loan forgiveness and universal higher education. We start moving into the 21st century with every other fucking country. I was 17. Oh, well. Fair enough. Okay, so you were just being honest. Okay, fair enough. I was 18 in 2016. It was the first vote I was ever able to cast. That means we were very close to the same age, you and me. You would be 26. Yeah. Yeah, you're 26 or maybe 25, about to turn 26, but I'm going to guess 26. Yeah. The only year I was voting age was 2020. So who did you go for in 2020, if I may ask? Bill Clinton was such a goof. Oh yeah, Bill Clinton was a goof. Fucking honestly, all the presidents we've had, except for all the presidents we've had in the last 20 years, except for Trump and Biden, were goofs. On top of whatever else they may have been, they were kind of goofballs on some level. It's been the era of the goofball president for a while. And I think the era of the goofball president moved into the era of the dipshit president. I didn't vote for either of those clowns. Fucking high five. You made a better decision than I did, friend. I voted for fucking Joe Biden, if you can believe it. Dude, I felt fucking scammed not long after that though. I think more clearly. What? That's weird. You made the right decision. There was nobody good to vote for in 2020. It was between Joe Biden, racist old warmonger, and fucking Joe Biden. You know, racial jungle Joe, and grab him by the pussy Trump. It's like disgusting old uncle versus disgusting old grandpa. Either way, you're going to be diddled by an old white man. It was just not a very appealing election. You're right about that, Lone. And that's one of the things, by the way, you guys are always, some of you guys are more pessimistic than I am. This is one of the reasons why I'm not as pessimistic about maybe the possibility that we achieve some leftist shit here in America within my lifetime, because I think if you look at the voting habits of Americans, it reveals more fucking interest in politics than people would have you believe. I think that there are things you can do to engage voters who don't normally vote. I think that there are things you can do to get Democrats to vote for an independent or a third party candidate. It's just like nobody's, in my opinion, taking the right tact. Maybe I should just do it. I can't run for like a presidential election or anything like that. But fuck it. I could see like, you know, how old you got to be to run for like, state house in Mississippi. I don't know. I probably couldn't go anywhere. I live in a very red state, but who knows, right? The whole fucking idea behind my little experiment, right, is like, here's what I was just sitting here thinking about. Somebody needs to come up with a third party that literally just comes out with a big fucking reveal video where it's like, we don't care about your opinion on trans people. We don't care about your opinion on this, that, or the other thing. The things that we can talk about, all of that, after we get universal health care. That needs to be the message. We need to deal with these class issues that unite us, and then once we're united on that, we can start to work through these social issues. We can sort through the facts. We can figure out what direction to go on that. But let's put that shit aside for a while so we can get universal health care. Let's put that shit aside for a while. I might have to go here in a second. Everything okay? Oh. Well, I mean, that's understandable. He's just mad because my partner's not letting him crawl around on the dirty ass porch floor. We let him crawl around inside, but we're not going to let him crawl around on the dirty ass porch floor. I do not trust that you can get a porch, especially if you've ever had dogs on it or anything like that. I don't trust that you can get a porch clean enough to have like a sub 1-year-old baby on it. So they're doing the right thing, getting in some fresh air, but not letting him play on the dirty ass floor. Also helping the homeless in America and the rising crime and ridiculous cost of living. Yeah, I mean, I will say crime in general has been on the decline since the 90s, but it is starting to have a little bit of an uptick in recent years, and I think that's something we need to deal with, but a lot of that is an outgrowth of the poverty that we're facing. That homelessness you were just talking about, that is an outgrowth of the poverty we're facing. That's why I say we need to put aside some of these social issues I think we need to have a third party or an independent movement or whatever that comes out and says, we care about these issues. We all care about these issues, but these are not the things that affect our daily lives for the most part. These are not the, this is not, trans people are not the reason why homeless people are, um, trans people are not the reason why homeless people are blanketing America. Um, and neither are, frankly, the messaging needs to be clear that it's a class issue, and then we will deal with social issues once we get through that. That But I just feel like I feel like it's a hard proposition, right? And I don't know that I'm the right person to create that messaging because, like I'm a hardcore lefty and shit, and I don't know that I could prevent my bias from shining through. Um, and I also don't know if I'm just not that, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not that eloquent. I'm trying to save for a house, and it's like, goddamn, yeah, I know, it's fucking insane out here. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. It's a liberal hub, and the cost of living is going up a lot. Oh yeah, I mean that's because liberals, right? The DNC, like actual libs, they they are useful for helping society continue basically functioning, but they are not useful for getting like good policies enacted. They're useful for stemming the tide of further fascism, and that's it. That is it. They don't actually fucking prevent it. They don't address the issues that are allowing it to rise. They just fucking put up a bigger flood wall, right? And that's why I advocate for, rather than doing that, let's fucking go for the, what I call the nuclear solution. And let's just fucking start a third party of people who are disenfranchised with Republicans, disenfranchised with Democrats, disenfranchised with not having anybody to vote for. And let's get these people together. We could easily get a majority, in a three-party system. We would easily be able to get a majority, in my opinion, if we just had the right fucking policies. And the messaging needs to be clear. We are going to, like, we are the fucking, uh I don't know what you'd call it. We are, because American Labor Party is probably already taken, and I think Labor Party might be kind of tainted by the fact that it's kind of failed Britain, um, and they started to become like real shit libs. So, um, I don't know. I don't know what the name should be, but like we're the American Populist Party, and while I'm sure we all care deeply about issues like trans rights and um, abortion and religious tolerance and all of these different things that we argue about here, but these are not the things that are resulting in a massive homelessness crisis. These are not the things that are creating a massive price of housing crisis and housing crisis in general. Therefore, these are not the things that are causing you to have to pay thousands of dollars every year in terms of your healthcare costs. These are not the reasons why that is. The reasons why that is are because we don't have good policies when it comes to these things. We don't have a universal healthcare system. We don't have anybody willing to fight for real infrastructure renewal in this country. We don't have anybody willing to fight for land reform. The American government too busy focused on and giving money to Israel and not focused on the American citizens at all. It's military R&D in general. Yes, part of it's our funding to Israel, but a lot of it's just military R&D in general. They are willing to sell us up the fucking river to pay for endless, endless, endless amounts of military spending. Literally endless. Mississippi actually has sweet affordable housing I've been looking at online. However, I'd have to switch to sales managing at a cigarette company. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Oh, boy. That's a very Mississippi job to have. A lot of cigarettes sold down here, I tell you that much. Man, what a blood sucking industry that'd be to be involved in. But yeah, I mean Mississippi does have really cheap housing. That's where I live, and it's cheap, dude. But you're paying for it in other ways, you know. So like, yeah, you might be able to get like you might be able to find you a place down here for 500, 600 bucks a month in terms of rent, or get a mortgage for like $800 to $1,000 a month or something like that for a really nice house. But you are going to be dealing with some of the worst roads in the country, narrow roads that were laid out and fucking put down and shit when cars were like a lot narrower than they are now, basically. And rather than expanding the roads, because that would involve redrawing property lines and all that shit, and doing a little bit of fucking eminent domain and all that, because it would involve increasing their easement and everything, and it would just be too much headache. So they haven't expanded any of the roads. You're going to be driving around on roads that were plotted down fucking 100 years ago, and that have just been built up since, that haven't actually been expanded meaningfully. So that's a big thing you'll have to deal with. The fucking the like range of choice of like businesses you have to go to is kind of limited. I guess it depends on your area. If you live in a place with 15,000 or more people, you can definitely if you live in a place with like 15,000 or more people, you can definitely get a wide variety of things to eat and do, but it might still be like a limited number of each, right? It's like you might have a bowling alley with a little arcade, and you might have like a roller rink or something, and maybe a park or two, some museums, but you're not going to have like a wide abundance of shit. The confidence you have in your truth is so refreshing and attractive in a patriotic way. In a platonic way. Oh, I thought you said a patriotic way, a platonic way. Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thoughts on immigration? Immigration is a good thing for America. We should encourage it. We should stop getting so up in arms about immigrants, and I think we should genuinely start inviting them into the country. We should make fucking immigration easier. These ICE raids, I think, are the least helpful fucking thing, because all the people that are getting gaffled up right now are people who literally they work for a living. They're fucking handymen and agricultural workers and farm workers and factory workers and shit like that. They are living as American citizens, even if they're not documented as American citizens. And I see no reason why we need to uproot the lives of these people just to satisfy some political agenda. That being said, I do recognize that that illegal immigration isn't the best, and not only it's not the best for the immigrant or for the country that they're immigrating to, but in order to make things more functional, we're going to have to address the fact that America has made it pretty difficult to immigrate over here. So let's make it easier to immigrate. Let's make it easier to get a fucking H-1B visa. Let's get it make it easier to get visas in general. Let's make it easier to renew them. Let's streamline the process for becoming a naturalized citizen. Let's widen the fucking availability of English classes and shit like that. Let's get these people legally in here, and like let's fucking reopen Ellis Island. Just call it Ellis Island or something like that. I don't know. Fucking take over Galveston and make that whole fucking island just a new Ellis Island for Mexicans. Hey, I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. I'm not sure what the topic at hand is about, but please have a wonderful day. It looks so beautiful outside. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It seems, yeah, definitely enjoying it. Yeah, I mean, you can tell. I mean, it's idyllic looking out here, literally. I'm about to have to get off here though, because I got to go make dinner. So, um, it's been fun. We've got 5 more minutes. Anybody wants to send any last super chats? Now is your time to send them. Anybody wants to send in any last well wishes, now is your time to send them. I also have my Cash App in my description if anybody likes to donate that way. And I think that's all the shilling I need to do. But yeah, we got like 5 more minutes to talk about whatever. But yeah, I think immigration is a good thing. I think that it sucks that we're so resistant to it these days when our economy relies on it so deeply. But there's a reason why this remains an issue, right? It's because the corporations don't want immigration to be made easier. Because if you hire like a legal immigrant, if you hire like an American citizen and shit, you actually have to fucking pay them right and report their fucking income and earnings and shit like that and pay taxes on it and shit. Thanks for the chat, Phoebe. It was refreshing to see eye to eye, but still be respectful. Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing, is I try to attract a group of people to me that are interested in having these difficult conversations, but that, you know, don't feel personally offended by disagreement and shit. It's really refreshing to have these because it reminds me that people are ultimately just people and that we all disagree on shit and have different ideas about different things, but that we are, at the end of the day, still human beings, you know? We can talk, we can have a conversation, we can disagree, we can agree, and it's okay. I'm proud of you. I've just met you, but honestly, seeing a trans female out in public fully embracing themselves is heartwarming. Accept and embrace yourself, sweetheart. Keep doing what you're doing. Aw, what a sweet, what a kind soul. What a beautiful person. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I mean, like, I can do nothing but be myself, so I try to accept myself as I come, you know, as I am, whatever you want to say. Come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be. Oh man, allegedly, Lisa, you got in at the worst time ever. There's literally like 2 minutes left of the stream. Are you planning on cooking? Stuffed peppers. Yeah, stuffed peppers. I don't know what I'm gonna do for sides. I might do some. It's kind of an unconventional side, but I might do some fried okra because we have some okra that's ready to harvest. We do have some okra that's ready to harvest. Streaming later tonight, peeps. Yep, I will be streaming later tonight. That is a good reminder. Thank you, Riley. I will be on later tonight at between 10 p.m. CST and 11 p.m. CST. If you've enjoyed the conversation we've had up until now, and if you've been here for an hour and 12 minutes, you probably did, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell so you get the notification for when I go live. I try to stick to around that time, but sometimes I'm a little later. It just depends on what's going on in the house and everything. So, but I am usually on later at night, and we can have a conversation then. I might even have a fire tonight. So if you guys want to sit and chill around a fire, you know, come enjoy the stream because you know we love to do that kind of thing here. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Remember to do all the things, engage in all the ways, and I will see you guys later.